We are making turkey stock out of the leftover Thanksgiving turkey. So we have the neck. We didn't eat the wings or the legs, and then the main part of the turkey with a little turkey left on it, but all the good stuff has been picked off. And then two stalks of celery, 2 carrots, an onion. We're throwing in our leftover gravy. That's not necessary, but it does help the flavor. Some thyme, bay leaves, parsley, and of course water. So all this stuff we just like coarsely chop, right? Because this is just stock that we're gonna be straining later. So you can chunk it, it doesn't need to be finely chopped. Robert said sometimes he also throws in extra turkey stuffing into the stock pot, but we ate it all. It was so good. I have a separate video on his stuffing recipe. There is never leftovers. It's just way too good. All right, the turkey goes into the stock pot. Cover it with just enough water to cover all the turkey parts. And then we're adding the cut and clean vegetables, 2 bay leaves, and a teaspoon each of the spices I mentioned, which were thyme and parsley. So add that to the stock pot, and then we boil it for
2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours. Like what temperature? High temperature, medium temperature?
I do it at medium. I'd start boiling it and then bring the temperature
So bring
down.
it to a boil at high, and then once it's boiling, take it back down to medium.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. This is everything in the stock pot, everything added and stirred together, just letting it bring it to a boil. We are 1 hour into the cooking process, and I tasted it. It needs a little salt, so we added 2 tablespoons of salt. Just salt to taste, you know, it's personal preferences. It's tasting good, but I felt like it needed a little salt. We ended up cooking it for about 2.5 hours. So now you strain the liquid. We're gonna scoop out the bigger pieces first, and then I have my favorite Pampered Chef strainer, and we will strain out the liquid. This is the strained turkey stock, so it is ready to eat if you wanted to make a quick soup. We are actually going to let it cool down, and then we put it in the refrigerator overnight. Turkey is extremely fatty, and so sitting in the fridge overnight, the fat is going to rise, and there's going to be a layer of fat. I will show it in the morning. We will skim that fat off, and then we will use the stock to make a quick and easy turkey noodle soup. I will show that tomorrow after we've let it sit overnight in the fridge. All right, this is the turkey broth sitting overnight in the fridge, and we actually decided not to skim off the fat. There's usually a thick layer of fat, and it's actually very thin. You can see, I'm scraping the edge so you can see the clear broth underneath. This turkey was a really good turkey. There just was not that much fat. It's usually a lot easier to skim off, and it's pretty flavorful. So since it's really not that much fat at all, we're gonna keep it in the broth. So I have 2 freezer containers that I'm gonna fill full of broth, and then I'm gonna take the rest and heat it up and make a quick turkey noodle soup. All right, we are getting some pieces of leftover turkey, and we're gonna cut it up in chunks and add it to the soup. At this point, you can also add more vegetables if you wanted. We're not going to. I think it's flavorful enough, and I just want a quick and simple soup, so it's just gonna be turkey and noodles. I'm actually boiling the noodles separately because if you can boil it in the broth, but the noodles will soak up the juice pretty quickly. So I'm going to boil them separately in water, and then once the noodles are cooked, I'm going to add them to the turkey broth. Here is the turkey broth we are going to stick in the freezer. We'll use them within the next couple months. I can't really tell you how long they'll last in the freezer. I think the general rule of thumb is like 6 months because I'm not doing anything special about freezing them, just in this nice freezer container. But we cook a lot during the winter months at home, and so we will definitely be using this broth to flavor other recipes. All right, here we go. 15 minutes later, we have a nice turkey noodle soup, and it tastes delicious. A great way to use your leftover turkey from Thanksgiving.